Okay, so I am going to do, this is a quick, this is somebody else's video, obviously, about a marauder on an IoT ESP32 low, whatever, low amperage wattage voltage device, whatever. Okay, so these boards you can get for like $15, $25, $60 with a nice touch LCD screen, and you can put all sorts of simple applications on these devices. And what I want to sort of show you is how easy it is this day and age to hack someone's Wi-Fi device or beacon flood or spoof. These algorithms have always been around since the beginning of the internet and TCP/IP stacks. However, the reason I'm showing you this video, there's thousands of people doing this, but this is just one random video. The reason I'm showing you this video is in 2001, I noticed the illegal privacy violations with LAPD and these worldwide groups, and Mike Huntley and my father and family violating my computer's privacy, which goes down to 94, to try to create the appearance of mental illness and schizophrenia and paranoia, called gang stalking and gaslighting. And when I started talking about it, the lawyers at Van Nuys Courthouse and the judges all used it as a weapon. That can't happen. People can't hack your computer. It's crazy. So I'm going to show you this video how easy it is to do a de-authentication attack on a Wi-Fi access point, cripple the security on an access point, and log in. And this video isn't going to show all that, but it's going to show how to build a simple IoT Marauder device. You can download Marauder off GitHub and put it on your IoT, your ESP32 device, or Raspberry Pi. I don't know if it works on Raspberry Pi, or Arduino or whatever. The argument here, this is not about how do you hack someone's computer and violate their privacy. This is about how easy it is to do, especially to this day and age. Did LAPD, the psychology community, therapist Corinne Eschigen says these things cannot happen and it's mental illness. Susan Donner, her lies that my mother setting me up with her psychology community friends and their judicial friends. I developed schizophrenia, magically developed schizophrenia at 29 years old. With Mike Huntley's death threats, world of paranoia, we're using the judicial system against you, have a good life now. LAPD says these things aren't happening. But more importantly, they say they can't happen, and I want to prove one more point, especially with the Woodland Oaks Homeowners Association linked to my family, telling them to do it. And court reporter Debbie Woolman owning the property adjoining my wall for over 20 years, nobody ever living in it. Could you put a computer in there and have people log in through remote desktop or VNC or all the other VNC variants, TeamViewer, and set up Wi-Fi hacking apps, or try to split spectrum cable modems and all sorts of things like that? Sure. Easy peasy when you have a plan of people helping you, right? Okay, so I have literally been through, in the last couple of years, 5 access points, crippled security on the firmware, and I'm not talking like a paranoid person. I am an IT person. I do this for a living, even though I can't really work for people because there's a plan of people hunting me to kill me, right, or make me look like a violent paranoid schizo. The point here is that I can tell, if I see a firmware that a password is set and all of a sudden it'll log in with any password, but it appears like the security is working, but it's not, or the way the operating system is functioning based on how it should, I can tell that something might be wrong, and I can investigate or packet sniff or whatever and see what packets are going through the TCP/IP stack, what ports are being used, what bandwidth is being used. Okay, so I'm not pulling shit out of my ass like that black stalker girl that lived 2 houses down years ago. What was her name? Laura or whatever, drove a blue and black Prius. Okay, so this video is simply someone explaining Marauder on an IoT device, what it can do. Once again, Mike Huntley routing our Signet East service. My father wanted us in the same office, so he gave us a great property deal in Tarzana. Mike Huntley routing the hub into Patty Guggen's office at Golden State Sports Medical. Worldwide groups with Mike Huntley, taking things off my computer, putting things on the computer, monitoring chats, installing agents with Snoop software that you can monitor every keystroke, everything entered into a web browser, every web URL, you name it. There's all sorts of these software, nanny software they call it, for $60 that will install the agent across a computer network. Okay, you don't even have to touch the computer. It injects the agent on the subnet based on IP to monitor my father not allowing me to go out and make money and live my life, my family, my entire family, and then working with people like paid off Debbie Woolman, court reporter, Van Nuys Courthouse, to purchase the property for 20 years adjoining my wall. A family can't relinquish control and has to own you as a slave. And when they don't get what they want, they blast 100 million lies to the world to hunt you to have you killed. Okay, so it is impossible to hack a computer. It is impossible to hack a Wi-Fi access point. By the way, the entire HOA has been working on me for 26 years. Terrence Scroggins was on the Homeowners Association 2017. He's on 370 or 75 videos of provokings and trying to get me to chase him and doing all sorts of fucked up shit and car tampering and okay, you name it. Lawyers refuse to use it in cases, impeaching the witnesses for the setups and frame jobs with the HOA and worldwide groups. As they go to places, worldwide groups help across the internet. It's been going on since 5 years old. It gets really bad in 1994 when my brother Jason Perlman wants me to see the internet with his girlfriend or wife Jennifer Pilchick Perlman. Lost twice against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It's impossible to hack a Wi-Fi access point, right? It would take 100 million MIT guys. Well, I'm going to show you here. Watch this video, and then you tell me, wow, that's really fucking easy. I can watch this tutorial and do it. And that's how easy it is to bypass WEP or WPA3 Wi-Fi authentication. And remember that this technology was around, I was about to say 94, but when Wi-Fi came to be, let's say that's 99, I'm not sure. Okay, it just wasn't packaged so well. You could do it on Linux servers. And I wanted to make one more note. This shirt. This is what a sane, rational people call a joke. It's a mock-up t-shirt I made. And most people worldwide try to use that as you're a criminal and things like, but it's what we call a joke. And it's a play off the irony that I can't leave my house in peace because my family's so angry at their 5-year-old and paying off porn stars and strippers and all sorts of weird shit to try to make me look like a stalker and things like that, and hear voices and make me look like a stalker and things like that, right? Okay, so it's a fucking joke. This is what we call a joke. The fact that I have to explain that tells you everything you need to know about the situation. And once again, yes, I know I'm using somebody else's video. You'll still get the recognition on this, but it is being used for security purposes to expose gang stalking operations of criminal behaviors with the police to try to make, and psychology community, to try to make people look crazy, to eradicate at all costs. And that is important because people need to know that this is how easy it is to violate their privacy. And the Brian Longbotham spy game tactics. I know you went to this website, hint, hint. I know you, I know you, I know you. Hint, hint, you tried to kill someone. We have proof on your computer. Weird shit like that Mike Huntley was doing with Rody Morales to try to flip me out. And it wasn't working because I found out 10 years later what Rody Morales was involved in with LAPD. So, but I knew enough. That Mike Huntley was exerting extremely psychotic, demented behaviors. And when it came time for questioning, like what's going on, out came the worldwide death threats with him. You don't talk, we kill you. And it went from a possible joke or prank, because I was like, this is a joke, right? Like, my world of paranoia, have a good life now, we're using the judicial system against you. And I'm like, this is a joke, right? You're fucking with me, right? But it wasn't a joke, because at the point that Mike had to admit that something was going on with my family, they chose to hunt me to have me killed with worldwide groups, which technically has always been the case since 5 years old. The cover-up is to make the person look crazy.
This video is for educational purposes only. Only test your own hardware. Doing otherwise is illegal. Don't be a skid.
What's going on, you guys? It is the Talking Sasquatch, and it's great to have you back. Now, if you've been following me since day one, you'll know that first I started getting into animations, and then right after that, it was building hardware with ESP32s and running the Marauder custom firmware. All the way back to my first Reddit post, which actually showed a picture of a really bootleg ESP32 I had set up running Marauder. Now, since then, I've showed you how to make your own custom boards running Marauder. I've showed you how to take the official Wi-Fi board from Flipper, install Marauder onto it, then use that to save PCAP files onto the SD card that we decrypt in Wireshark, and then finally use Hashcat on to break the handshakes to get Wi-Fi passwords. Well, the one thing I've never actually done, and nobody else has really done a great job of, is give a definitive guide on how to actually use Marauder. So today, I'm going to show you how to use Marauder. I'm going to show you all the different versions of Marauder that I have, and go through every single one of the sniffers, the attacks, everything you can do with Wi-Fi Marauder. I literally can't even tell you the number of times people have asked me things like, how do I make my own Rickroll? And, how do I actually use this application? Well, today's the day. I'm going to show every single feature that Marauder has, and I'm going to take you along for the ride. So buckle up, let's get at it. All right, so we've got all sorts of cool stuff here, starting off with the ESP32 Marauder Mini. So this thing's kind of cool. It has all of the functionality of the actual ESP32 Marauder. Here, I'll angle it. So I've got the screen protectors still on here. Technically, these are Lord Conda's. Well, this is mine, but the big one is Conda's, so I don't want to take the screen protectors off. But this has all the same stuff that the full-size Marauder has. It's just in a smaller form factor. This thing's really cool. You can throw a battery in it, take it with you. So yeah, ESP32 Marauder Mini. You can purchase all of these devices, including the new Wi-Fi hat that he's got with a SD card reader, on the Just Call Me Coco Tindy, link down below. It restocks every 1st and 15th of the month. All right, so let's get right on into it. One thing to keep in mind is that these applications on all forms work pretty much the same way, including the Flipper. The Flipper's got a boiled down interface made by Coco Code, who's absolutely awesome, actually helped me with some questions I had about this video. But it's slimmed down, but nearly all of the functionality, as far as at least the Wi-Fi stuff, is still in the app. So let's grab this guy and see where I can put it so it's not going to have crazy glare on it. This'll work. So let's start our journey of whimsy and wonder in Wi-Fi. We're going to go right into the sniffers and see what we've got here. So the top option right here is the probe request sniff. We can open this up right now. So what this is going to do is to check for probe requests. Now, a probe request is when a Wi-Fi device is basically pinging other devices looking for, nearby server-side identifiers or SSIDs. This will show up down at the bottom as a MAC address, which is a media access control. It's going to show the addresses of any nearby cell phones or pretty much anything that's looking for access points. Even a cell phone that's idle, it may send hundreds of probe requests per hour, so it's actually a really good way of determining which Wi-Fi devices are in any given area. So yeah, you can see it's popping stuff up there, so we'll pop back to the earlier screen. So moving down the list, we go to beacon sniff. So the beacon sniff is simply, sniffing out Wi-Fi access points nearby. It's going to show the MAC address and the ESSID, which is just the extended server-side identifier of any, Wi-Fi device in the area. It doesn't do anything with this information, it's just showing it to us. So if we want to actually do something with the information, we can go back here, and then down here we can scan APs. So when we run scan APs, it's going to do the exact same thing, but now it's going to save the access points to a list. Once they're on the list, we can run attacks and stuff on them, which we'll show in a few minutes. All right, so the next one is going to be the deauth sniff. Deauth sniff. Really hard to say for some reason. What this is doing is simply that. It's searching for deauthentication packets. So the deauthentication packet simply floods an access point with deauthentication frames, which will tell it to either kick a certain device off the network or kick every device off the network. A hacker can basically go on at that point and sniff handshakes like we've done before. And then when the device tries to reconnect, we could use those handshakes to crack the Wi-Fi password. You could even execute a man-in-the-middle attack to act as an intermediary and monitor all the network traffic from a device, which could reveal any personal data they may be sending, logins, credentials, banking data, literally anything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to use the Marauder app, and then we're going to run a deauth attack. And boom, you can see immediately how many of these things are going on. Tap to exit. So the next one is the EAPOL, EAPOL, and PMKID scan. I'm going to have a real hard time saying that over and over again. But basically what this does is it searches for those specific packets sent over Wi-Fi. The EAPOL, there's extensive authentication protocol over LAN. Those are packets that are the four-way handshake packets that the device uses to authenticate credentials with an access point. We used those earlier again to crack through Hashcat. So the PMKID, which is Pairwise Master Key Identifier, those packets are similar to the handshake packets, but there's only one of them, and it doesn't require the device to be de-authenticated and re-authenticated. This way a hacker can grab only one file and use that to grab the hash over the Wi-Fi network. So for those of you wondering, a hash is simply just a string of data that's converted to another type. It's typically using, encryption so that you're not just transmitting your Wi-Fi passwords over plain text. But yeah, this scanner scans for those specific packets. So if it finds them, then it will save them to the SD card. Now, right now, you can see it's not really finding anything. It's not a surprise because I live in the middle of nowhere. And it actually just has a graph that shows kind of when packets are being grabbed. Obviously, since I'm not grabbing much, it's not showing much. So we'll exit out of here, but this is super useful. So the next one is the Detect Ponagachi feature. Now, I haven't been able to get this to work. I'm not sure why, but yeah, I've got my little Ponagachi right now with my sensor tape, which magically appeared at some point during the video. Weird. And yeah, I can't really see it, but whatever, not a huge deal. Obviously, we have scan APs. We already went through that, so that's no big deal. Then we have the raw capture. So the raw capture is just basically showing everything that it can find around me, showing the MAC addresses of it, and then showing the RSSI, which is the received signal strength indicator, which just says how strong the signal is. So it's showing me everything that's around me, the MAC address, and how strong the signal is for that, which is kind of fun. But, not super practically useful, at least not right now. So the station sniff is kind of cool. What it's going to do is it's going to go through and actually scan different devices connected to a specific network. So first of all, I have to go back here. I'm going to, let's see, whoop, I don't clear. Select APs. I'm going to go ahead and select my access points. And then when we go back to sniffers, back to station sniff. Now this is going to sniff out any device that's attached to that network. So then we can do a targeted deauthentication attack directly to any of those, particular devices. Now, I do have a reasonably well-secured network at this point, and it's a 5 gigahertz network. I do have some things that are on 2.4, but most of these aren't going to show up. But what's going to happen is it's going to populate a list that we'll be able to select through. So that's kind of cool. And then the last option here is the signal monitor. This doesn't actually work right now because you have to connect to a network directly, and then it just tells you the difference in signal strength for that network. Not something I've found particular use for, so I won't really even bother going over that because, I mean, I can't imagine you're going to use that in your everyday life. So let's go back and let's go to attacks. So our first attack is a beacon spam list. So basically, it'll spam any APs or SSIDs that are in our list right now. So for this one, actually, we'll go into general, and we're going to just go to add an SSID. And with this horrible keyboard, I'm just going to do sideways too, but we'll figure it out. A, S, Q, U, A, C, A. Where's the letter H? H. Cool. Select that. It adds it up here. Get out of here. Go back. And then we're going to go to attacks. Beacon spam list. So right now, and I'll show you on the computer in post. So right now it's sending out that SSID, and you can see it pop up on the Wi-Fi list. Now you can add any number of SSIDs to this and make your own Rickroll right with the program. So that's pretty cool. So let's back out of there. The next one that we have is beacon spam random. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a bunch of random SSIDs, and they're going to broadcast that. You can see the number of packets per second. This creates a lot of SSIDs, which is very annoying. Really, please don't use this in public. This is a really annoying thing to do. It pops up tons and tons of different channels, and this is one of those things that you could get in trouble for. Moving on, we have the Rickroll beacon. We'll click on that. Everybody knows what this does. This sends out APs to the lyrics of Rick Astley's classic song, Never Gonna Give You Up. This has been, kind of the mainstay of this for a long time. Everybody knows what this does. So the next one is probe request flood. So what this is going to do, it's going to send probe requests to an access point over and over again at a rapid rate. This can effectively jam the access point, as it's going to take up pretty much all of the resources of the hardware and can make it so devices will not be able to connect to it. It works by selecting the access point or points in the general tab, so we can go back, and then general, I still have access points done, but just for the sake of argument, yeah, we're still selected, back, and then attacks, and then I can just run the probe request flood. It's most effective if you have a smaller number of access points. You can select multiple, but obviously it's a flood. So if you've got 10 devices selected, it's not going to flood very well. I'm not going to run this on my own network because I don't need to flood my own network. So moving on. All right, so the next one we have is the deauth flood. This is going to send deauthentication packets to all of the APs on our list. So this is going to deauthenticate any vulnerable devices on the network, and while the attack is running, those devices just won't be able to reconnect to it. They'll be continually booted off the network and not be able to access it. Same thing as the flood before. The more things you have on the list, the worse the attack's going to work. Again, I'm not going to run these attacks on my own network because it's effectively going to kick all my devices off, and I just don't have time for that. We also have the AP clone spam. I can click on that. It's not going to show anything, but what that is, it's going to basically send out cloned SSIDs for any of the access points in our list. So it's going to look like there's a bunch of those. Could get really confusing if somebody's actually trying to access the network and they don't know which one to actually log into. And the last option here is the deauth targeted. So the deauth targeted works by, we go back to general, we're going to go ahead and select stations down here, and it's going to show all of the individual items or all of the individual devices that are attached to our network. You can see access points and you can see different devices here. So if I go back there, so I selected a device by its MAC address, run the deauth targeted attack, and that's going to attack the single device on the network and try to deauthenticate just that one device. It's really nice if you're trying to research things and you don't want to deauth everything. You can select one item and just deauth that. So that's super cool. So that is our last attack. So we can go back and check out some of the general options. These are all the general options. They show up. We've talked about some of them, but we can go over the rest of them. So this is how you join Wi-Fi for the Wi-Fi monitor, or the signal monitor, sorry. It's kind of cool. Shutdown Wi-Fi will just basically shut down the Wi-Fi connection, so you won't be on it anymore. If you do log on to Wi-Fi, it will log off if you run any of the sniffing things or run any of the attacks. It'll automatically leave the Wi-Fi right there. Now we have generate SSIDs. Now this is going to generate a list of 20 random ESSIDs that can be used in the beacon spam. It's just 20 random short AP name or SSIDs for that matter. So instead of making all your own, it'll do that. And when you run a flood, it will just show those generated SSIDs. Add SSID, which is just what we did before. So we added our own SSID to our list that we can use for the same floods and the same attacks. Clearing SSIDs, clearing APs, clearing stations, that's all the same stuff. It's going to just go through and clear those specific items. Add IP, that's what we did before. And then select stations, we showed that before. So that's pretty much the Wi-Fi capability of the ESP32 Marauder right there. I'm going to go back, and now we're on the main menu. So one of the things that you don't really, or most people don't realize is that, yeah, the ESP32s do have Bluetooth capabilities. So we can load up the sniffer right here and just do a Bluetooth sniff. And it's going to go through and sniff any device that might be transmitting on Bluetooth right now. So yeah, let's see what we come up with.
A few moments later.
Let's see if it crashed. It did this to me last time. Okay, so it actually crashed. We're going to restart it. I'm not sure if it's because we ran all the attacks or what, but at some point in time, doing all the things that we did will basically make the Bluetooth part crash when you run it. We'll just restart it and run the same thing again, and I'm pretty sure Bluetooth sniffers, Bluetooth sniffer. There we go. It works perfectly fine. There's some weird bug in it, not a big deal, but yeah, that happened the last time I ran this. So yeah, let's pop back. You can see all the other cool stuff, my flippers and my vector little robots, some other cool stuff. So yeah, there's a bunch in there. So detect card skimmer is pretty cool. It will detect the credit card skimmers that people are installing on, credit card or ATM readers in, supermarkets or gas stations and things like this. I thought about getting one to show off, but I don't want to be on a list of people that have bought credit card skimmers, so that one's going to have to wait till a later date. And then back, general, and then you can just shut down Bluetooth, so that's how it works. So basically you can just do sniffing on Bluetooth. Again, that's a pretty cool feature. As far as general apps goes, it's just the draw thing, so you can draw things and, draw whatever you want. Not exactly, not Picasso, but yeah, look at me. Hi. Cool. So that's it. And to get out of this, it took me a second to figure out. You just draw up towards the corner. Hello. There we go. And then you can get out of there. Under device, you can update the firmware. So there's a web updater, which works pretty well. SD update, you can get update.bins. I'm not entirely sure how that works right now, but honestly, the web update was the easiest way to do it. Or you can just plug it right in and update that way, kind of the old school method. That works well. So when you want to update, just do one of the normal methods. It's all outlined on the GitHub from Just Call Me Coco. Again, all of this is on the GitHub from Just Call Me Coco, but some people don't like reading, and, this is a much easier way, I think, of learning for some people. So yeah, language is just English right now. Device info shows the firmware, the temperature, SD card, and the size of it, all this other good stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much the workflow for the full-size ESP32 Marauder. Again, these guys go on sale the 1st and the 15th of every month, so definitely grab one if you can. They're really, really cool. Just Call Me Coco. Check them out. So as promised, we're going to move over to the actual flipper. There we go. That's not too bad. And then I've got this lovely skin from Lily. This is the official Flip Squatch custom skin. It's really cool. I love it. It's amazing. So we're going to go down to our applications. So this is a ESP32 that I got from AWalk, which has got my custom case. That's why I love it on my thing. Go to GPIO. And then we're going to go down to ESP32 Wi-Fi Marauder. One quick color change later, and actually I've decided that what I'm going to do is plug this in so we can see what's going on in QFlipper. It's way too hard for everybody to see what's going on right through the screen. So let me flip over to QFlipper and we can see, everything twice. So with a little movie magic, now we've got QFlipper, so you can follow along with me. So yeah, basically we can view the log, so that's our first option. Now this just shows basically everything that's gone on so far. If you have logging enabled, that is. If you don't, this will probably be blank. Not really the most useful stuff in the world, but if you're a person who's into logs, that's how you access them. Next, we have our scan options. So we can scan for access points or we can scan for stations. I'm just going to go ahead and scan for access points right now because this is going to populate our list so we can run our attacks later on. Give this just a few moments to make sure that everything shows up. There we go, that should be good, and we'll back out of that. So now that we have our list populated, we can move on. So just as before with the full-size Marauder, we have their SSIDs where we can add either the random SSIDs, you can add a specific name like we did before, or we can remove anything. You know, if we go to remove, we can just type in whatever we want to remove. We can add. So yeah, actually, good thing to know is if you go to add name, don't delete all this stuff. You leave it on here and then make it acts like, you know, additional. So SAS, I'm not going to type the whole thing out. Save. So don't delete that. And then we're just going to go back. So that's going to actually add that SSID to our list. So we can go through and list all of our APs, list all our SSIDs, or list all of our stations. We're going to actually go to access point and then just look at the number for, we're going to attack the borough. So that's number 5. So now that we know the number of our access point, we can select it. Obviously, you can select either an SSID or an access point. We're going to go ahead and go to number 5, save, and then we're going to go back and then back again to get back to the main menu. Also, if you want to clear your access point list, your SSID list, this is how you do it right here. So as before, in our full size, this is going to be the deauthentication attack. Our probe attack, we can do a rickroll. So, you know, we discussed exactly what all those do already. But here with the deauthentication attack, it's going to attack the specific access point that we selected a second ago. Same thing with probe attack. So I'm not going to run those on my network right now. Y'all know what happens. Now, you can also select stations and do a targeted deauth. Again, we talked about that earlier. So all the functionality of the big boy is actually in this application right on the flipper. Moving on, we've got our beacon spam. Our beacon spam. Talking's hard. So you can spam the AP list that we already have, the SSID list, or you can spam random. So if we do, say, a random beacon spam, we can see right over here, give it a second. There we go. You can see all these random junk APs popping up here. Super annoying. So yeah, don't do this too often. Again, this could probably get you in trouble. Then we can move on to sniff. We can sniff for beacons, sniff for deauthentication packets, sniff for expressive chipsets. You can scan for those. Scan for PMKIDs. Again, I knew that's going to be hard to talk about today. Scan for probes, scan for Ponegachis, scan for, and this is just the raw scan. So yeah, you can scan for a lot of stuff. Scan for Bluetooth, and then yeah, scan for the card skimmers. All the same functionality as a big one in this small little app right here. It's super cool. Moving right along, we have our signal monitor. So what the signal monitor does is if you've got a selected access point, it's going to tell you the signal strength of that every time it pings a beacon. Basically, all you can really do with that is blindly walk around with your flipper, trying to see if you're getting closer or further away from an access point and try to figure out where your router is, or maybe a router you're trying to find. Kind of limited functionality, but I can think of a few use cases where it could be slightly useful. Next, we have our channel, so we can either get or set our channel. I'm honestly not 100% sure of the actual functionality of this. I haven't run into where it's actually used on the flipper, so I'm not 100% sure. As far as settings goes, yeah, we can set our saving PCAPs. We can set all the settings that we had on the full size. So that works pretty well. We have an update function. Honestly, you're better off plugging this in to update it. I found it's a lot more useful. We can reboot, we can go to help. All of this stuff is, you know, kind of normal stuff. We have our scripts. We're going to come back to that in just a second because this is some fun stuff in there. We're also going to save to Flipper SD card. So basically, if you have either the official Wi-Fi board or your board is using an ESP32 S2 Rover, you can save the PCAP files directly to the SD card on the Flipper, so you don't need to have an SD card slot on your actual GPIO device, which is pretty useful. So we set it to yes, and then you can save the logs. The same thing with the logs, it'll save it to the SD card. Super, super cool. Oh yeah, there's another thing I wanted to show you before we get into scripts. Again, scripts are super cool, but if we go up to Sniff, we have Sniff PMK. This is a feature that was actually added after Coco saw my last video and saw me basically doing a really awkward workflow for capturing handshakes. Now, when we sniff the PM kids, we can do a passive or an active sniff. An active will actually force a deauthentication packet, and then yeah, it will do exactly the same workflow where I ran a deauth and then sniff right after. It's so much easier this way. We can do it passive with a targeted, so we can target a station and then either deauth that station or just sniff it normally. And then this is where the channels come in. So now I understand. When you select a channel, you can send deauthentication packets on that channel and then sniff for handshakes, or you can just, sniff them normally. So that's how that all works. That's where the channels come in. Really, really cool. This is a super, super powerful feature that they've added. All right, so let's pop back into scripts. So scripts, this is actually really freaking cool. You can do a lot of stuff this way. You can automate a bunch of workflows, or what everybody's been asking me to do is how to make a custom Rickroll. So if we go to, I'll just show you the demo. So the demo for Beacon List. So you can either run it, go to settings for it, you can edit the stages, save or delete. So we're going to go to edit stages. So you can see it's Beacon List 1, Beacon List 2. So it's going to run through your first Beacon List. And this one has, you can generate random ones if you want to. It tells you how long it's going to run for. But you can actually go through and then you can just set your own access points. So basically it's going to go through and scroll these just like a Rickroll. And it's going to go through all of these access points. So this is how you make your own custom Rickroll. You can either delete all these and then make your own, or just start over. So what I did was demo Beacon List. Let's get out of here, and then go to Sasquatch. So I ran this one. So I'll even show you the stages. So it's just single Beacon List, and then I just add 2 APs to it. You can add as many as you want to, but this keyboard absolutely sucks to work with. So right now you've got kind of the only the 2 access points. But, and then, yeah, of course you can add random ones after that. So just for the sake of fun, let's add, let's add 4. I'm not going to do 40. I don't need to do that. Let's see. All right, cool. Back out of that. Back out of this again. Make sure to go to save, just in case. And then let's go to run. And then I'll open up, before I run it, open up that. And then run. So we're going to wait here for a second and see what happens. There you go. SAS rocks your socks. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 random hotspots. So yeah, that's how you make your own custom Rickroll. If you've got some time and you want to deal with the keyboard, you can do whatever you want. Now, there is a lot of functionality that you can do with a script here, like a lot. So if we just go to let me go to here. Let's go to edit stages. And then add a stage. So these are all the different things you can add as stages. You can make a pretty long custom script. You can even run custom commands. You can change the delays. There's a bunch of really cool stuff. If you go to the ESP32 Marauder FAQ and Just Call Me Coco's GitHub, you can see a whole list of all basically these are command line instructions right here. So look up all the CLI stuff and you can write your own scripts, and you can literally automate any number of really, really interesting processes and attacks and just about anything. So yeah, that is a pretty in-depth look, I believe, at the ESP32 Marauder for both the standalone Marauder over here. Again, all that cool stuff works on the Mini right here. And then you've got the Flipper. So there's so much functionality. It's really, really, really cool. So yeah, that's pretty much how you use ESP32 Marauder on all of its forms, except for CLI. I could have gone into that, but I feel like this is going to be a long enough video. There's tons of content on here, and basically all of the CLI stuff, or most of the CLI stuff, is available right through the app or, the actual physical piece of hardware. So I hope you've learned how to use Marauder to the best of its abilities. Now you can run your own custom Rickrolls. You can, play tricks on your friends. You know exactly how to gather handshakes and what all those different features mean. We've been answering questions about this forever. People don't know what probe scans are. People don't know what the beacon spams do. But now we know. So hopefully this answers all your questions. If you have any more, leave them down below. I'm as active as I can be. Join the Discord. We're always trying to be as helpful as possible. Just Call Me Coco also has a Discord. Hop in there if you have more questions about ESP32 Marauder. Remember that they restock on the 1st and the 15th. So thank you so much for hanging out. It's been a blast. We'll catch you next time.
Today, we're going to be targeting nearby smartphones and extracting the Wi-Fi password stored inside on this episode of Hackbite. Every time you join a Wi-Fi network on a smartphone, it stores the password and the name of the network to a list of preferred or trusted Wi-Fi networks. Now, a hacker wanting to exploit this property of Wi-Fi could pop up a Wi-Fi network with the exact same name as the one stored inside your phone. And because your phone is incapable of telling the difference between a fake and real version of that network, it will try to connect with this password. The attack we're going to try today is called a half handshake attack, because normally when a Wi-Fi device connects to a wireless network, it creates a four-way handshake. But in this example, we're going to be using only two in order to guess the password of the Wi-Fi network the person has connected to in the past. Now, in order to try this out, we'll need a wireless network adapter that's compatible with Kali Linux and a computer running Linux as well. Once we have this, then we can get started. To start out today, we're going to go to wiggle.net and do a little bit of open source intelligence in order to decide exactly what network we want to try to get the password from. Now, if we wanted to look up the name of, I don't know, maybe a business that has their business registered, we could look up and find out what the name of the network is for the office. Although in this case, I have simply looked for any network names in a particular area, in this case New York, that are named Honeypot. So here I can find more specific information like the type of security of the network. And in this case, because I don't want to call any companies out specifically, we're just going to use this honeypot network. But you can imagine this to be, I don't know, maybe the Wi-Fi network of like a defense contractor or a government agency or someone who's really important. But honeypot is the example we'll use today. And this is the process you can use to look up the Wi-Fi network name of pretty much any office, school, or business. Okay, so now that we know the name of this, what do we need to do in order to start monitoring and actually try to get the password to this network from somebody nearby who has it stored in their phone? All right, well, let's go over to my terminal window. And first I'm going to run ifconfig. And we can see that I have two wireless cards here, WLAN1 and WLAN0mon. And WLAN0mon is already put into wireless monitor mode. So the command for that is sudo airmon ng, and I'm going to actually stop WLAN0mon. That should put it back into normal mode. And if I want to then put this into monitor mode again, I can do start WLAN0, and we're back where we started. So, all right, so we've now put one of the wireless cards into monitor mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use my Android smartphone to create a network called Honeypot. So let me go ahead and do that. And the first thing I'll need to do is identify exactly what channel this Honeypot network is operating on. So on my phone, I've also set a really long random password for this Honeypot network because I really don't care. I don't know the password, and I really just want devices to recognize the name and connect. So I'll make this lowercase as it was, except for the first character. Okay, so that's up. So now let's do sudo arrow dump ng, and then we're going to put the name of the wireless card, WLAN0mon. So as soon as this happens, then we should be able, I'm going to stop that, expand this, rerun it. There we go, now we can see names. And we can see there's a network called Honeypot right here. So we can also see some information about it, such as the fact that it's operating on channel 6. So that's what we are going to focus on for the rest of our investigation. We're going to be going after channel 6 because that's where our fake network is being broadcast. Now you can imagine maybe you're in a coffee shop or something and you are going to be popping up this fake access point and listening for any devices nearby that are trying to connect. So let's go ahead and start listening for this half handshake. And I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to run sudo arrow dump. And some people might notice I'm already root. I don't need a sudo, but if you're not root, which you shouldn't be, then you will need a sudo. So sudo arrow, actually I'll just go up, sudo arrow dump ng, but this time we're going to add -c and then 6. And that's because we're broadcasting on channel 6, and that's really the only thing we should be listening for. I'm going to do an and symbol, and then I'm going to say Wireshark. So what this will do is it's going to start it's going to set the wireless network card to channel 6, and it should open Wireshark at the same time. There we go, it worked. So let's go ahead and select WLAN0mon as the interface that we're listening on, and I'm going to go ahead and open this all the way. and we should be listening on channel 6, and what I want to see is I basically want this beacon right here. So I want to see a beacon frame from the honeypot network. So we need to write a Wireshark filter right now. And this Wireshark filter is going to allow us to only see traffic going to or from this network. So let's go ahead and pick the transmitter address. We can also pick the source address. These are almost always the same. Right mouse click and click on apply as filter selected. Then I'm going to copy this. So this is everything transmitting from this device, but we actually want to see everything that is being received by it as well. So we're going to add 2 pipe symbols. I'm going to paste this again so we have it spelled out, and then I'm going to put DA. So it should be destination and transmitter. So this should show us everything to and from this particular wireless device. All right, so now that we've written our filter, I'm going to press this to follow along with the stream. And now let's say that I'm a device that's connected before. I'm going to go and I'm going to disconnect from the network I'm on right now, and I'm going to actually simulate what would happen if I were a device that had connected. So I would have that stored somewhere in my phone's memory. Let's say it's password 123. We'll make that the name of our office Wi-Fi. And normally this would be an automatic process, but I want you guys to see that, you know, I'm using an insecure password. And again, on a typical example, the smart device would automatically connect because it already has this information saved. So it's going to connect, and then we should see some ePOL packets. So I'm going to copy this right now. I'm going to cut it actually. Oops. And I'll cancel that because it's not going to be able to connect because we don't know it's not the real network. So I'm going to cut this and type ePOL. And ePOL is basically handshake. So looking here, I can see we actually have a message 1 of 4, message 2 of 4. Since this is a 4-way handshake and we're only looking to do a half handshake attack, this is actually everything we need. We can see that this device actually attempted to connect a number of times. So we should be good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do ePOL and then I'm going to paste my old filter. And the reason I'm going to do this is because in order for me to actually crack this, I'm going to press stop because I have all the information I need. In order for me to crack this, I need to have at least one beacon frame with the name of the network along with the ePOL frame. So if I just save the handshake, but I didn't save any beacon frames, then that actually wouldn't work. So I'm going to go ahead and see, I think it's export specified packets. Oh, actually, no, I guess I can, well, yeah, okay. So I'm going to save this as half handshake hack byte. A little long, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we get it right. So we're going to just pick the displayed packets based on our filters, and we're going to make sure that this is saved as a PCAP file. So let's go ahead and save this. All right, so we're going to go back to our terminal window, and we can probably, hopefully, press Control-C now, and that will close Wireshark and stop the capture and all that. So now we're going to do aircrack-ng. We will need a password list. So I thankfully have a password list right here, which is the RockU password list, very popular. And next, after this, let's make sure, I'm actually going to make sure this is properly spaced. Don't want them running into each other. We need to put our capture last. So this means the capture we just saved, it should be pretty long. There we go, half handshake hack byte, or whatever I saved it as. And then we can just press enter. So this command is aircrack-ng-w, the name of the password list that we're using to crack, and then the capture that we just saved as a PCAP file. Boom, that was it. Okay, well that didn't take very long at all. Because there was only one network there, it didn't even ask us to specify which one we wanted, and we were able to figure out that this was the password that the device was trying to connect to our fake network with. Now remember, we're just creating a hotspot on our Android phone, and yet nearby devices are trying to connect and giving up the passwords that are stored inside them. Now, again, we just did this manually, so normally the smart device would already have this, but I wanted you to see that, hey, this is the password that I attempted to connect with. So if anybody else was doing the same, then we would be able to figure out what that password to that Wi-Fi network is. Using the half handshake attack and a little bit of open source intelligence, it's easy to try to unearth the password of a Wi-Fi network that you are nowhere near, only because there's a smartphone nearby which is connected to it in the past. Now, if I wanted to target a particular type of employee or somebody who works at a certain business, I could just look up the address where they work, look at the name of their Wi-Fi network, create a fake one, and wait in a spot that is very likely to have one of their employees show up. Now, there is one disadvantage to this attack, and it's because it's a half handshake. Since we don't have the other half of the handshake, we actually cannot verify that this is the correct password. So it could actually be some random person who sees that Wi-Fi network, wants to connect, and puts in a gibberish password, rather than someone who's connected before and whose phone is automatically trying to reconnect. Now, while that is a limitation, it's still pretty crazy that you can extract bad passwords from people's smart devices. So if you have a bad password on your home Wi-Fi network or your work Wi-Fi network, make sure to let them know that anybody out and about might be able to extract that. That's all we have for this episode of Hackbite. Make sure to watch our other episodes, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for supporting Hack5. Find all our shows, community, and pen test products at hack5.org.